Can you believe that some people out there still actually think that the messages that they send through WhatsApp are private? I guess for some reason they actually believe those messages that pop up when you first use WhatsApp that say, oh, WhatsApp can't read your shared location, we can't read your messages, and of course we don't share your contacts with Facebook. That's silly. Oh, Mark Zuckerberg looking at all of your nudes and then sharing them with the rest of his alien overlord friends? That doesn't happen. That's just silly. Maybe these people watch the news when Mark Zuckerberg gets dragged from his spaceship before Congress, and he repeats exactly what he practiced with his lawyers to each and every question that is asked of him. I mean, at this point, having tech billionaires lie to Congress should really just be a national sport or something. You get 7 points for repeating what your lawyers told you perfectly, and you get 3 points for answering dumb questions honestly, like, oh, how do I get the Google on my iPhone? It's obvious that everything that comes out of or gets acquired by Facebook Inc. is spyware. But here's some more proof to just drive the point home to you. You might be surprised to learn that WhatsApp has more than 1,000 contract workers that are filling the floor of office buildings in Austin, Texas, Dublin, and Singapore. They're seated at computers in pods. I wonder if they also eat bugs. And they're organized by work assignments. These hourly workers use special Facebook software to sift through millions of private messages, images, and videos. They pass judgment on what flashes on their screen, claims of everything from fraud or spam to child pornography to potential terrorist plotting, typically in less than a minute. These workers have access to only a subset of WhatsApp messages, those that are flagged by users and then automatically forwarded to the company as possibly abusive. So if thousands of people working for WhatsApp are able to access these messages and pass judgment on them in less than a minute, then clearly something is up with the end-to-end encryption that WhatsApp is using. There must be some kind of backdoor that is built into it, because the way that end-to-end encryption actually works is that Alice encrypts a message, it gets forwarded to Bob, and nobody in between can see the contents of that message. They might capture the message in its encrypted form during transit, because of course this isn't a peer-to-peer situation, you're still using Facebook servers to send messages, but if it were truly end-to-end encrypted, those captured messages would be useless to Facebook. The only way that these employees could audit messages in a true end-to-end encrypted setup would be to have Bob bring his phone in after flagging one of Alice's messages and then show the auditors the messages that Alice sent. Like, look here guys, here's Alice's terrorist plot. She's planted 500 pounds of plastic explosive around the foundation of the ATF's headquarters. Each bomb says, this is for Waco, and has a name of a child that has been burned alive by a Fed. That's what it would take to stop a terrorist plot or whatever kind of bullshit excuse that WhatsApp uses for having this team of auditors if it was truly end-to-end encrypted. One of the involved parties with these messages would have to bring in their device so that it could have plain text images and messages downloaded off of it. So best case scenario with this is that all of your messages are normally encrypted with WhatsApp until somebody flags them for terrorism. And then the encryption key for that whole conversation gets sent to WhatsApp. But I'm gonna be real with you. I think that they just have those keys the entire time. I mean, it's a proprietary application and you guys know the whole gist. If it's proprietary, you can't access the source code, then you have no idea what they're actually doing with your data. The moment you sign up, they could be sending all of your information straight to the Zuck. So I think that they just have these decryption keys the entire time and they just decrypt all of your messages whenever they feel like they need to. So for the 100th time, WhatsApp is spyware. Don't use it if you want your messages to be private. But before you go and uninstall WhatsApp, you may very well be able to use this spyware application against Facebook themselves. You see, our brothers and sisters across the pond over in India have found a way to reduce the effectiveness of mass global surveillance by sending good morning text to one another. Now, this is a much older article from 2018, but I think it's still relevant. So apparently, many people over in India and other countries like to send good morning texts to their friends and their family, usually in the form of an image like this one that you see here. Now, if you live in the West, you might know a couple of people that do this. Maybe grandma or your auntie likes to do this from time to time. And it really isn't that big of a deal, but because this is a big cultural thing in India, and they have a population of over 1 billion people, the waves of good morning texts that are just rolling in from maybe an hour before sunrise to 9 a.m. Delhi time is enough to slow the internet there to a crawl, and it stresses out the infrastructure of social media. Because, of course, most Indians are using WhatsApp to message their friends and their family, and they're probably using Facebook Messenger as well. Apparently, at some points, the bandwidth that is used by these good morning messages was so great that it was able to bring Facebook services down for some people. And of course, that is when the normie rage kicked in as soon as they got disconnected from their propaganda machine. So let's look at some of these tweets that the Indian Express found of people complaining about Indians clogging the internet. Dear at WhatsApp, Indians clog phones with good morning spam. Go ahead, you have my permission. Monetize it. Devise a formula where these words trigger the algorithm to charge money. Do it. You have my vote. And then it's followed by a bunch of cringy hashtags. Too bad that most of the time the Indians are sending pictures and GIFs. It's going to be pretty hard to devise an algorithm to find those and charge people for them. Sending good morning gifts is apparently the one thing that Indians manage to do punctually. Yes, unfortunately, your Netflix customer service is going to be delayed for another 2 weeks, but in the meantime, we have 50 million good morning messages for you. Indians sending good morning messages is the biggest worry to Google engineers right now. You're right. How is the heckin' Botnet gonna track all of us if the based Indians are constantly shutting it down with their good morning messages? Even India's prime minister likes to get up at 5 a.m., start his day by doing some yoga, and the entire time is firing off good morning texts to his colleagues. Now, the real reason that people in big tech are so against this is because, for one, it makes the mass surveillance that we know is going on all over the world that much more difficult. Imagine having to sift through billions of good morning text and images just to find one illegal meme. Plus, we know that there is nothing that the Antichrist hates more than people having strong, healthy relationships with their family. And what better way to strengthen that than to say good morning to the people who you care about every single day. In fact, I'm going to start doing this, and I encourage all of you to do this as well. Go on to WhatsApp, create a decoy social media account, and message everybody good morning. Don't use those services to plot your overthrowing of the government, of course. Just use them to post more crap that the NSA and FBI have to dig through. You should also make sure that the good morning text are images like this, because those use even more bandwidth, and they're a lot more difficult to filter out than text messages. It's like when there's a 10-hour video on YouTube and then someone flags it for porn, you know that somewhere out there is a YouTube employee who has to sit through 10 hours of this nonsense video of He-Man singing to try and find that TOS violation. Make the feds earn their paycheck. Make them read every single one of your good morning messages. Foil the plans of the Antichrist yet again and tell all of your loved ones good morning.